Today on Locked On Red Wings, Lucas Raymond soars to new heights again. We continue player evaluations on this episode.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's a host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a sports writer for C&G newspapers, while I am a color commentator for Oakland University, ACHA, D1 men's hockey. And Scotty, we are going to continue our player evaluations today, our headliner being Lucas Raymond. But before we get to that, I got to let the people know that this episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to Amazon.com/FireTV Locked On to learn more. All right, Scotty, let me pop my screen back up, and I'll give a refresher to the people on where we're at with our evaluations. This is part 2 of what is hopefully going to be a 4-part series. Last time we talked was, I think, Monday about it, 'cause so much happened in between now and then. But then and now, I should say. Albert Johansson is in the above and beyond expectations category. He far exceeded our expectations for him this season. Simon Edvinsson is in exceeding expectations. Larkin, Tyler Mott, and Cam Talbot, are in meeting expectations. Craig Smith is in below and failing expectations as Vladimir Tarasenko. Those are our categories. Each player is ranked based on our subjective, arbitrary expectations for that player on the season. I do have Twitter polls out that you can vote on it that should close probably around 3 o'clock today by the time people are listening to this on these players, but I will let you know where everyone sits as of this recording when we talk about each player. But we want to have like a big headliner, Scotty, with every single episode. And the first episode is obviously the captain, Dylan Larkin. No better place to start. Well, in this episode, we are going to be talking about and headlining with Lucas Raymond. Scotty, Lucas Raymond, 80 points, the first Red Wing since Henrik Zetterberg to do it in 2011. Hit that 80-point marker. He is, only 23, I think. Super young still. When you think about his season as a whole, where would you evaluate his ranking?
Yeah, this is another one where I feel as though you could probably split it in half and get two different answers, right? Maybe not exactly in half, but
it's like
maybe
3/4, 1/4.
Right, pre-4 nations, post-4 nations, whatever, like 67% or 70% or whatever that break is at. I feel like, not that I am blaming 4 nations and the tournament specifically, but just for, like it happens in sports, post All-Star break, there's some people that maybe aren't playing the same way that they did before. And not that Lucas Raymond was like terrible or like a liability or anything, but the production definitely tailed off. I mean, we were talking, after the new year about him being on pace for 90 points. Like, we were in the calendar year of 2025. That was a thing at one point. And so while it's certainly far from a disappointment, and I think he's probably still an exceeding for me, I don't think that, again, I think it depends on when you ask people. And at the same time, if you would have told me going into the season that Raymond would be around a point-a-game player, that would have been over the expectations that I probably would have set out for him. But that's not, it wasn't linear either. That's all I'm trying to say is it was a little bit of a just like the Detroit Red Wings, I guess, to be fair, a lot of streaks of hot and cold and peaks and valleys.
Yeah, this is a tough one because you're right. The slump post 4 nations on the playoff push does kind of, with recency bias, kind of sour how to rank Lucas Raymond. But when you look at his season as a whole, I mean, it was another step forward, another significant step forward as a whole, right? It's not for nothing that he's the first player in over a decade to reach 80 points for this team, and that he did it at such a young age, coming off of signing a brand new contract. And it's not that he's not like great in clutch time, right? We saw him last year be like the driving force behind their playoff push. So while I do think the recency bias does kind of sour my overall my thoughts on him. Overall, I still think he had a fantastic season. For me, it comes down to, because if I want to be fair and talk about the overall season, what was our expectation of him going into the year? I think our expectation of him was to take another step forward and to produce more points. I think we probably said somewhere close to 80 points was what we were hoping to get out of him this year, and he got 80 points. Does that mean he's meeting expectations? That also does still feel kind of wrong, because he was also the best player on this team for large stretches of the season. I think DeBrincat was your most consistent player, he and Seider, but when Lucas Raymond was on, he was by far and away your best player. So it feels disingenuous to put him in meeting, even though he did meet our preseason expectations. But also he was your best player, so it's hard to place him in either category. It really is. And honestly, the listeners so far, at least as of recording, agree with that. 53% have him in met expectations, and 43% have him in exceeding expectations. 3% have him in below, 1% has him in failed. I just assume that's a misclick, because I don't know how you could put Lucas Raymond in failed expectations when he hit 80 points. But I don't know. It's a tough one. I can make an argument either way. My gut is telling me exceeding expectations, even if that's kind of contradictory towards what even if that's contradictory to what our preseason expectations were, that he does take another step forward. But that's just what my gut's telling me.
Yeah, I'm okay with exceeding. I even think, we can go back and listen if we really want to find out exactly what we thought preseason expectations were, but I would venture to say that if you would have told at least me going into the season, hey, he's going to be a point a game this year, that I would have said, wow, that's probably better than I'm banking on at a minimum.
Right. So, and again, this is all arbitrary, so it's our ranking. Who cares?
Sure.
We like Lucas Raymond, put him in exceeding.
Sure.
Next up, Scotty, is Andrew Copp. This is a player that is divisive amongst the fan base, right? We all know the contract. We all know the lack of production. But under Todd McClellan, up until he got injured, which is probably 20 games maybe, he saw an uptick in production. He saw an uptick in his role. He was playing top 6 center between DeBrincat and Kane, and he looked a lot better. He really did. He looked a lot more solid, and I think McClellan's approach to the game helped free him up and let him play more his style of hockey. But is that short sample size under McClellan enough to make up for the 40 games or whatever it was, 30 games, 35 games under Lalonde, where he again was kind of an ineffective player?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think this is one of the more difficult ones on the entire roster. And the reason why is because I just feel like at any point in the season, you could pick a certain day and ask that question, and it might be a different answer. And on top of that, I think expectations for him are going to be very varied. I think they're going to be very spread across the board. We had pretty darn low expectations of Andrew Copp going into the year. And I think that he found a role to maybe get the most out of him, but that still was not incredible. I want to give him credit for taking a step forward and for being, I think, better than we expected, but it's still a far cry from A, what we thought we were getting when we put pen to paper, and B, what he's being paid. So I don't know. I really think that this one, you could kind of convince me of probably anything except the two extremes.
Yeah, I would not put him in exceeding expectations. For me, again, this is between meeting and below, again, because our expectations were lowered now. This is our, third season with Andrew Copp, and our expectations at this point are slightly lower for him. And with that being said, I thought he kind of met those expectations. But then again, part of me still wished for more scoring, and he really was not scoring at a very good pace either. And again, he's asked to play a primarily defensive role, and that's part of why his production is down. I don't know. I can put him in either way. I'm
okay with meeting.
let's let the people decide on this one, since we're split, and the people do have him 64%, 44 votes have him in meeting expectations. So if we're torn, we can let the people be the tiebreaker on that one. He could be in meeting expectations. 25% have him in below, 7% have him in exceeding, and 4% have him in failing, but 64% in meeting. So we can use that as our tiebreaker if we're ever torn. Scotty, let's go to a quick break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation evaluating players. Stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney+, Max, and more, and play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take you or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/FireTV-LockedOn to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including the second generation Fire TV Stick 4K, the first and second generation of Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and the third generation of Fire TV Cube. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. We're continuing with our player evaluations here. Moving on. Next up, that face looks like Elmer Soderblom. This is a fun one, I think, Scotty. This is a guy who our expectations going into the season were non-existent, right? This was a guy who really wasn't on our radar at this point. With a combination of play and injury last year, he was not in the lineup a ton in Grand Rapids. He had a short stint with Detroit the year before, and then he came into Detroit this season, got the call-up after really improving his play, and he had 11 points in 26 games played, kind of playing everywhere around the lineup. This is a tough one. Where do you rank him?
Yeah, how is this a tough one?
It's a fun one. I shouldn't say tough one.
I was going to say, I think this is maybe the easiest one on the whole roster, legitimately. I don't know how this is anything other than above and beyond. This is a guy that going into the season, not only were expectations non-existent, I think they were below that. Expectations were okay, this guy might not even make it out of GR ever again. He might have just flamed out, and it was just a cool story. Oh my goodness, we have this giant forward, and he came up for a couple of weeks, a couple seasons ago, and he never was able to really figure it out. Cool, he was a 6th round pick. No one's the wiser. That's what the expectations were. I don't think I even planned on him playing for the Detroit Red Wings maybe ever again. And he not only played for the Red Wings this year, he was a pretty prominent part of the middle six and really showcased his ability, man. I give him a ton of credit, and I don't know how this is any legitimately, if we were to put these in order, I think he is the most above and beyond expectations over anyone else on the roster.
Right, and he's above and beyond expectations this season. And this is where, again, our personal expectations are the deciding factor on these. Next season, the expectations are going to be different. Next season, right, we expect him to be, for a full season, a contributing member of the middle six. So he's going to be judged based on that. But because our expectations for him were literally non-existent going into the year, the fact that he got called up during an injury stint for when another player got injured, and then he made his roster spot permanent in that span, getting most of his time in the middle six, but also getting top line chances at that. I mean, I agree. How can you not put him in above and beyond expectations? So Elmer Soderblom was a really fun story, especially in the middle of a winning drought. That was March for the Red Wings. He was one of the few players that was really fun to watch in that span, and using that size to good use. And I'm excited to see him next season, as the expectations will certainly be a lot higher going into next year. That was a quick and easy one. Scotty, next up, Michael Rasmussen. Oh, by the way, just to keep consistency, 67% of people who voted on Elmer Soderblom said exceeding expectations. Again, with these Twitter polls, you can only do 4 options, so I do not have above and beyond expectations as an option. I imagine if that was there, you'd get a pretty heavy split between exceeding and above and beyond. But 67% said exceeding expectations, 33% said met, nobody said below or failing. So that goes to show exactly how much Elmer Soderblom impressed the fan base this season. Next up, Scotty, Michael Rasmussen. This is a guy that I'm personally a little bit disappointed in the season that he had. Only 21 points in 77 games played. That's a drop in points from last year. We had 33 in 75 games. And point per game pace drop from the year before that, where he had 29 in 56. So almost less points in more games than his career pace high that he set 2 years ago, where he was on fire. So still a really important member of the defensive side of the puck for the forward core, but I was pretty disappointed with Michael Rasmussen's production and overall play this season.
Yeah, and I think that he's tough too for me. Like I don't go into the season expecting a lot of point production from him. But I do feel as though for the role that they are expecting out of him, that he didn't exactly live up to that this year either. But it's just tough because it's so not points based, right? Like obviously you'd like him to produce more and score more points. Like that would obviously be great. But that is like when he's at his best, he does so much outside of that. It's tough, but I think I agree. I really don't. I did not notice Michael Rasmussen in a lot of games. I'll put it that way.
Right. I agree. I think, and you're right, like with Michael Rasmussen, it's about so much more than just points because of the role that he's asked. But at the same time, there is kind of a level of expectation in regards to that category, and 21 is not meeting that expectation.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not enough points. And on top of that, right, like this team wasn't that great defensively. Their penalty kill was terrible, although I haven't checked to see how much penalty kill time Michael Rasmussen himself got on the season. But it's, one of the things that while he was one of the better defensive forwards, his team wasn't great defensively, so that's not saying a lot either. I'm pretty comfortable putting him in below expectations personally.
I'm fine with it.
All right. And the fan base agrees for what it's worth. 80 votes, 63% have him as below expectations, so the biggest chunk. 15 have him at met, and 19 have him at failed expectations. So a pretty large segment of the fan base thinks he didn't even come close, which I think is a little bit extreme. But 63%, the vast majority, agree that it is below expectations as well. All right, Scotty, let's go to an early break, and then we can knock out the last 3 on the other side and send you guys into the weekend. So stay tuned to segment 3 of Lockdown Red Wings. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it's unlike anything else. The intensity, the speed, the energy in the building, it's next level. And thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer. With last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. You can save that 60% off by buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. Their all-in pricing shows the total cost up front, no surprise fees at checkout. The app even shows you panoramic seat views, so you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. And with Game Time ticket coverage, you know you're protected, whether it's cancellation protection, job loss assurance, or their 24-hour guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Segment 3, Lockdown Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty, we got 2 defensemen and a goalie to hit up here in segment 3. Let's lead off with Jeff Petry, another one that is interesting because his play was not worthy of where he was being deployed, but there wasn't much other choices for that role, and we kind of did expect it too. So how do you rank a guy who you kind of expected to not perform well and expected to get asked more of than he was probably capable of playing?
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, like I have him around meeting, and that's because we expected him to be a bottom pair defenseman and a fine-ish bottom pair defenseman if the minutes were reflected as such. And there was a point this season where we were hoping that he would come back from injury because of what we were putting out on the third pair. So I'm okay with meeting. That's kind of where my head's at.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, the fan base obviously has a lot of discontent with Jeff Petry, and I think some of it's warranted, some of it's not. It's because of what I just kind of laid out, right? Like, this is a guy that at this point of his career is not a top 4 defenseman, but when you look at the right side, he is still your second best option. So he was asked to do more than he was probably capable of at this point in his career, and we kind of expected him to struggle. And he did. He did not perform like a top 4 defenseman. But again, we expected that because the general manager, Steve Yzerman, did not do a good enough job adding to or changing up this defensive core, requiring Petry to play in a role that he probably isn't ready for anymore. And so, meeting our personal expectations, he met them, but that's because the expectation was low, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
So
no, I agree with all that.
So, and I do feel really bad for Jeff Petry too, because I think he becomes kind of a scapegoat with the organization because of everything that I just said. And then because of that injury and the surgery that he had, did not reach 1,000 games. It would have been really nice for him to reach 1,000 games in a winged wheel because that's his hometown team. I feel really bad. I say this every single time we talk about Jeff Petry. I really liked Jeff Petry. He had a great career. He just got here at fortunately the wrong time. But it is what it is. Just want to mention that Michael Rasmussen, by the way, because I talked about him penalty kill wise, right? He was the 5th most time on the ice per game on the penalty kill out of all the forwards. So he was behind Comfer, Mott, Larkin, Copp. Of course, Mott was in and out of the lineup, and Copp missed a significant amount of time. So Rasmussen played a penalty kill role more than most forwards, but not the most on the team. Scotty, next up is Ben Chiarot. This is another one where I can kind of copy-paste a lot of my comments I just said about Jeff Petry, a guy that we know was going to be asked to do more than he was capable of. And for what it's worth, I thought he handled himself amicably in that role. Not like he played great or anything, but he played exactly how I expected him to play. Like, next year, if we are truly a better roster, he should not be on the top pair or in the top 4, really. But he probably will be unless we go out there and we get some fantastic left side defenseman to plug into the top 4. And so he met my expectations, which was exactly what we got out of Ben Chiarot, which is not enough, right? Like, we didn't get enough out of Ben Chiarot, but this is in year 3 of his 4-year contract. It's also what I expected. It's really weird when it's these guys you don't expect a lot out of than when you're ranking them.
Yeah, no, I'm lockstep with you again, man. This is one where they didn't get a lot, but we also got what we expected. Honestly, I think we got exactly what we expected.
Copy paste from last year,
right? Kind of the epitome of Ben Chiarot.
Yeah, so it's kind of a shame that that's the expectation for those guys, but that's not 100% on these players either. That's on roster construction too. These are guys who we have been saying since last offseason shouldn't be playing in a top 4 role. That how great would they be as your third pairing defenseman? But whatever, I digress. We got one more Scotty to talk about on this episode, and that's Alex Lyon, a guy who had an up and down season, but I feel like this year was a little bit more down than up than last season.
Yeah. This is, I mean, just kind of the epitome of Alex Lyon is like, you know, you ask this in January, you get a way different answer than when you ask this in March, and you get a way different answer from both of those than if you asked in November. Like, it's just, it's such a peaks and valley type of thing. I honestly, I think we got around what we expected. Like, there's wiggle room there for sure, but I think going into the season, I mean, we kind of knew that he wasn't going to be the 1A. And going into the season, there was still somewhat of a chance, even if it was a Hail Mary, for Ville Husso to come back at some point and be relatively productive. Like, I think the expectations going into the year were, you know, hopefully the Wings are in a position where they don't have to rely on Alex Lyon as much as they did the year prior. And while that's probably true, injuries kind of affect that too. I mean, he wasn't stellar over the course of the season in the games he did play, but he was, you know, capable of the, you know, bi-weekly Alex Lyon masterclass that we've become accustomed to as well. So I don't know, man. I'm kind of all over the place with this one.
I'm going to give you my reasoning for below expectations, and it's pretty quick.
Okay.
Not that he was terrible, but he played 14 fewer games than he did the season prior, but his save percentage dipped from 904, which was around league average, to 896, which below league average. You know, he wasn't giving you the incredible stretches of goaltending that we saw last year. I think he had one early on in the season, right, where we were being saved by goaltending between Cam Talbot and Alex Lyon, a ton of it. But I feel like this year we got more downs than ups with Alex Lyon, and we were kind of expecting a closer to a 50-50 split. And for me, I mean, the league average save percentage was like 902, something like that, and Cam Talbot finished like right there. Alex Lyon with a sub 900 save percentage this year is just not good enough, especially when, you know, the big reason we said he struggled last year was because he got ran into the ground. Well, he played 14 fewer games but gave us worse production. So, I mean, I like Alex Lyon a lot. Great personality. Seems like a great dude. Fantastic contract that he's on. But ultimately, I think that we were expecting the same level of play that we got last year, and I thought what we got was slightly worse. So I think
I'm fine with that.
He can be better below.
For sure. I'm okay with that. I think
I mean, that's part of the reason why. I'm sorry, but that's also part of the reason they traded for Peter Mrazek, is because they did not have confidence in their goaltending.
Right, for sure. And I think that the point that you said there that resonated with me the most was just there were more downs than ups. Like, you're expecting kind of the peaks and valleys with Lyon, but this was a season where there were far more valleys than peaks.
Agreed. For the record, to just go through what those the player rankings are so far, Jeff Petry is 45% below 43% meeting expectations, so the fan base is pretty split in where to put him, kind of similar to where we were. 68% of the fan base thinks Ben Chiarot met expectations, though, so that's an interesting anecdote. And when it comes to Alex Lyon, let's see, where did they have him? Alex Lyon is 45%. Fan base is really split on this one. 45% of voters so far have him at below expectations. 36% have him at meeting, and 19% have him at failed expectations. So kind of all over the place, but for the bulk majority suggest below. So that's where we lie. That's where you guys so far lie. Again, this poll will be open until about 3 p.m. on Friday. But that is where it is, Scotty. Another successful episode of evaluating the players. Any final thoughts?
No. Pistons in 7. We ball.
We do ball. Tigers best team in the AL.
Also, I'm saying this before the Pistons game on Thursday night. So if we lose, then ignore that.
All right. Same time, same place, your team every day.